Just the whole shame around sexual abuse is stupid. That's a taboo. You don't get help, or you're not crazy. That's what they say. But I just thought I'm being paranoid.
Like, men oftentimes will portray the woman as the crazy ones.
Just take his very tiny dick out and be like, I never, ever, ever, ever expected something like that to happen to me. So I have a clitoris, but I also don't. I can do it in like 15 seconds when I do it myself. People are very surprised when they say, "Oh, you masturbate?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm like, yeah, you should." Like,
hi everyone, welcome to the O Collective podcast. We are Winksy, Simona, Eden, and Diana, and we're all about intimate female pleasure and wellness. In this podcast, we share insights from modern third culture kids on relationships, sex, intimacy to help you navigate your way through life. Today, we're talking to Jewaria, who on the surface is looking like she's living the life. She's a model, she's an online creative, she's being invited to the most exclusive parties, and she's raising a super cute little baby boy next to it. However, in this episode, we'll go a little bit deeper than that. We'll talk about topics that you don't really easily come across on social media. Jewaria has been a victim of sexual abuse, and she opens up to us about it, and she also gives us the lessons that she wants everybody out there to know. Next to this super intense experience, Jewaria also suffers from a very rare skin disease called Lichen Sclerosus, which impacts the areas around her genitals. At age 24, it seems that Jewaria has lived several lives already. So let's get into it. Hi, Jewaria.
Hi, Jewaria.
Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. To start the podcast, we would like you to describe yourself in one sentence.
Well, I can do it in one word, maybe.
Oh.
I think I'm caring. That will be something very Jewaria.
I love that. Okay, well, we'd like to warm up with like an icebreaker. So what does feeling sexy mean to you?
Everything. My mom, from when I was really little, always taught me that feminine sexuality is extremely important. So I think that feeling sexy for me is basically the base of my whole existence. So it's very important, actually.
Is your mom Moroccan or is she Vietnamese?
Vietnamese.
Ah, wow. And then your Vietnamese mom told you that sexuality.
Yeah.
I think that's unique. Is it not?
I do see Vietnamese women as extremely feminine and sexy. Like just from like traditional dresses, like the high slits, super form-fitting. And like there's so many beautiful and feminine and sexy Vietnamese women out there.
Yeah, for sure. But I think Vietnamese culture is very, very, very similar to Chinese culture. We have the same holidays, basically everything. So my mom is very unique when it comes to this kind of stuff, because also my mom is a very out of the box mother. She got me when she was really young. So basically everything about her is shame upon family. So that's why I think she's also
breaking taboo.
Yeah, she is.
Go Mama Jewaria.
Yeah.
So, yes. So what is one thing you can remember learning about sexuality growing up? That
it always needed to be a safe thing. And I'm not talking about safe when it comes to like STDs and stuff, but my mom always taught me that I think when I was about 12, she already started to kind of warm me up. When I got interested in boys, she was always like, yeah, and if you ever want to do it, you need to make sure that you really like somebody. She always taught me that your vagina is a diamond.
Oh.
And that only people with very, very delicate gloves can touch it.
I like this. I'm gonna say this.
Yeah, so she always said to me that it needs to be something that you need to be very comfortable with and that you want yourself to. And she said, like, if you ever feel like you want to have sex, just tell me, and I'd rather have you do it at home where you feel comfortable, and then we'll just all go away and we'll give you your time. But be something very comfortable. So that's what she taught me.
Such a cool mom.
Yeah, I have a very cool mom, actually.
Yeah.
That is not a very typical Asian mom.
No, not at all. She's the mom from Mean Girls. You know, the one.
Yeah.
Cool mom.
Yeah, that's her.
Man, my mom would lock me up just to make sure that I wouldn't have any sex. Other way around. All right. You're from Vietnamese and Moroccan descent while living in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
How did that affect your upbringing around sexuality and sexual intimacy? You already alluded to that a little bit.
Yeah, so my mom raised me. My mom is Vietnamese. And then I wasn't really raised by my father. I was raised by my stepfather from when I was 4 years old, and he is Japanese, but also raised in the Netherlands. He's half Dutch too. So I guess my parents they're very open. And when I speak about my parents, just to clarify, I speak about my stepfather and my mom. Yeah, I think, Amsterdam is very open in general about sex and sexual stuff.
Yeah.
And so were my parents, actually. My mom, I also had heard them having sex a lot when I was a kid. It was so traumatizing. And then my parents never had the intention to do that, but they always told me you should be happy that we do it. It means that we love each other. It's healthy. So I guess that I grew up in a very open household, and also just in general in Amsterdam, my high school, everything was very open and comfortable.
Yeah, the West is very open. So nothing of the Asian strictness that influenced your upbringing?
Yeah, in many ways it also did. Maybe not when it comes to sex, but also when it came to sex, because I remember when I was little, I was never, ever, ever able to sleep over at friends, for example. And I think that that's a very Vietnamese thing. My mom was always very, very scared, and just everybody, basically every female in the family is always very scared that children or teenagers get raped. So they are very protective when it comes to letting you stay over. When there was a father or an older brother somewhere, I was never able to go there. My mom was like, no, she can come play in our house and we'll just bring her back, or we you can stay there until late and then I will pick you up. So in a way, I also grew up very Asian, but also not.
I see that part, because the part where our parents are super concerned about the rape part, I don't really see that coming back in Dutch culture, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all. My Dutch friends were always, when I was already in elementary school, they were always sleeping over everywhere, and I was never able to join any sleepover. Yeah. And also just coming home late and that kind of stuff. My mom was very protective when it came to that.
Yeah, it's something that happens. We don't talk about it a lot, but also happens a lot still in Asia.
Yeah, for sure. I think most of my aunts, they don't speak about it, but I have a suspicion that everybody basically got raped. So. Yeah, it's also in the Vietnamese War and stuff. It was very common. So, my grandma has 2 children from 2 American soldiers. So, it's kind of shady.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that stuff happens.
That's an intense, what is it? Upbringing? No cultural background.
Reality, I guess, because we didn't, I was watching this documentary on Netflix about the Donut King, and it's about Cambodia, but also it's just this life that a lot of us really cannot understand. And it wasn't that long ago these things happened. Your grandmother, that's just 2 generations up, but they went through an entirely different life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think that this was literally when my mom was already born. This stuff happened. And I think you can, and it's not about sex then, but I think in many ways you can still see the trauma in the family, the war, basically all the scars that the war caused.
Is it getting better? Over the years, the new generations, it's they're more safe or secure or more educated about it, or men are less inclined to do it?
Maybe from my generation, but I definitely think that my mom's generation is still very much damaged, and it's a choice to that person and that parent to break that cycle. But I think it's very
and that's hard for that generation as well, because that generation also doesn't look for any help.
No, because that's also taboo. That's a taboo. You don't get help, or you're not crazy. That's what they say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of taboo, it's weird that there's a contrast of your mom never made you feel shame about the topic of sexuality, but then there was such another 180 of concern about the world of sexuality. Yeah. So what is your real thought on, you kind of touched up on it a little bit, but about self-pleasure and intimacy and the taboos that do come with it, because you have a very strong contrast of both sides of it.
Yeah, I don't really feel that there is any taboo on it, to be honest.
Really?
I'm very open about it, and my mom is also very open about it. So I never felt shame or taboo when it comes to masturbation and stuff. My mom literally gave me 2 vibrators.
Oh, that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. And also
how old were you?
Ooh, how old were I? Yeah, I think like 16 or something.
Oh, wow. Go
Amazing.
Mom.
Yeah, my mom was
did
also like, oh, you have sex? Did he give you orgasm or otherwise it's bad sex? Like my mom is really...
Oh, wow. But did your peers give you any judgment from that though?
No, not really. But I do feel that even in Dutch culture, masturbation is still something you don't really speak about. I mean, people are very surprised when they say, oh, you masturbate? I'm like, oh, that's I'm like, yeah, you should. Like, I'm surprised how many women still don't do that.
Or don't admit to it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what did your mom say when she gave you your first vibrator?
That I need to get to know my own body first and very well to be able to have good sex. And she said that if you don't know your own body well, then a boy can also don't know your body well.
You've got such a progressive mom.
Yeah, she's really cool.
What, did she get this from her mom or where did she get this knowledge from?
No, I mean, I watched the previous podcast and you were speaking about your parents, and that's exactly my grandma. Like, you don't speak about it, you don't talk about it, like typical traditional Asian mom. Yeah. Like, my mom was literally pregnant when she was 17, and my grandmother is like, oh, where did that came from? You know, like she's like, it's like a typical traditional Asian mom.
Wow. Then your mom like really encouraged you to know your body, and I assume that you took that. I mean, it sounds like you know your body well and you're very confident. But you did also open up to us about your condition called Lichen Sclerosus. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly. Can you kind of share what that is? Because it also seems shocking to hear that this is. I think a lot of us probably wouldn't know about it or be aware of it.
No. Yeah, and I hope you didn't Google it because it looks disgusting on Google. I mean, my vagina doesn't look like that.
Oh, and it's one image, and then on Wikipedia it's okay. Yeah,
it's an autoimmune disease, and it mostly affects the skin around your genitalia, but not always. You can also have it behind your ears. I also have it behind my ears. You can have it in between your fingers. Basically, skin that is thin and vulnerable, that kind of gets affected by it. And basically what it does is when it gets damaged, it kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it hyper heals itself, which causes, I don't know how to call it in English, but it kind of like makes the skin very thick with a lot of scar tissue. So what happened with me is when I was very little, my mom actually took me to the doctor a lot because she thought I was being raped, maybe in school or somewhere else. Because I always had like and I was around like 4 years old, I always had like a very red and open wound there. And it always looked very irritated. I always had a lot of pain and itch. So my mom was always really scared, you know, like that Asian protection came in. She was always really scared that something happened to me. And we actually found out very late when I was actually 15 or something, when I started having sex, what it was, because it's so rare. It really like, not a lot of people have it.
So the doctors didn't know when your mom brought you to the doctors?
No. And it either happens with young children or it happens after menopause. Guys can also have it, but it's more common, I think, in women. And with me, basically, what my problem is that the skin around my clitoris, kind of, we call it the hood, is closed. So I have a clitoris, but I also don't because it's buried underneath a lot of skin. So that's also why my mom gave me a vibrator when I started having sex, because it needs to stay open so it doesn't grow, like it doesn't close anymore.
Oh, so it was like a medical reason you had to do it.
Also but I don't really have it around the opening. I just have it around my clitoris. But if you have sex and, for example, it's not wet enough or anything, it will rip. It rips, and then when it rips, it gets irritated, and then the Lichen Sclerosus gets activated, kind of, and it will hyper heal, and then it will just be a big fucking issue.
But has that affected the way you can reach an orgasm in any way?
Yeah, for sure. I cannot have an orgasm while I have sex. I can do it in like 15 seconds when I do it myself, but I never, ever, ever had like a full orgasm with a guy.
probably very common for most women, but you actually have also a condition around it. So
I actually wanted to say, are you sure that this is because of your condition, or is this just a general thing? Because a lot of women don't have an orgasm when they have sex.
The thing with me, I think, is it's a combination of the two. So I remember when I started masturbating, when I discovered it was around like when I was 10. I still had a clitoris because I remember looking there with a mirror because I was curious how it looked. And then I thought, oh, I have I call it a little pearl down there. Yeah. And then it's like very slowly started to close. So the skin started to close on it. And I think because there's a lot of skin on it, I have less sensitivity. And because I have less sensitivity when I was a young teenager, I taught myself how to kind of like flex my muscles really hard in my legs to have an orgasm quicker, because it's basically all about flexing your muscles and like putting tension in your muscles. So I think that's kind of the issue. Like, I don't feel comfortable laying on my back, putting my leg like that to have an orgasm while I have sex, So I think that's kind of the biggest issue. So it's a combination of the two. Because my mom was always like, you have to stop and you have to do this and then you can have orgasm. And I'm like, it never works. I'm like, I never fucking.
So you can still have a clitoral orgasm. At this point.
Yeah.
It just takes different effort.
Yeah. So I just I just taught myself how to do it my way. And now I have a lot of issues kind of not doing it that way. And I mean, I'm training it a lot lately to try and do it in other ways, but then it's just like baby orgasms.
Is there anybody else in your family who has it? Is this or where does it just appears?
Yeah, I don't think it's a genetic disease. I think it's just bad luck.
Oh, okay. So before we started a podcast, we already went through the topics, and there is one other topic that is a little bit more sensitive, and we already discussed that you live more lives than we combined live before. You told us about that you've been sexually abused. Could you maybe allude a little bit to that and how that happened, or whatever message you want to spread around it?
Yeah, well, basically I have a whole Instagram live about this on my Instagram that goes more in depth into the story, because I also don't want to waste too much time on this bastard. But yeah, what I did and what was my whole kind of message that I wanted to give people is that there's a lot of shame around it and a lot of guilt, I think, also, and feeling that it was your fault, which it is never. So yeah, I never ever expected something like that to happen to me, because I thought, oh, that happens when you're naive or like dumb, and it happens with shy girls or girls that don't have a voice or anything. It was also super stupid for me to think that, and super judgmental too, but I am very vocal about basically everything. So I never expected something like that to happen to me, but it goes it's so sneaky basically, and it kind of like enters your life so slowly, and then I mean in some cases, in my case. So yeah, I never expected something like that to happen to me. But yeah, I just don't want people to think like me, like I did before, that it only happens to naive girls, and that it doesn't happen to girls that are actually very tough, and that is just not your fault. Just the whole shame around sexual abuse is stupid.
Is there anything that really helped you out of it, or afterwards someone who helped you, or something that helped you to realize that, or to get out of that thought spiral?
First, to acknowledge it, because I didn't for a while. And I also didn't open up about it for a few weeks. But yeah, the ex-girlfriend of the guy who raped me, for some weird reason, we got into contact with each other. And she really, really helped me, because when she said like, oh my God, that happened to me too, all of a sudden it became reality in my mind too, because I kind of like put it in a dark corner somewhere in my head. I didn't want to think about it anymore. So I think that the acknowledgement that it happened is very important. And then afterwards for me, which is kind of, I think also a radical decision, but taking my sexuality back. So I told my mom, like, I really need to have sex with somebody that is nice and that I like. And so that when I was really scared that I wouldn't have sex for a really long time because I was scared. And then when I met somebody that I really liked, that I was broken. You know what I mean? So, I told my mom, like, I'm going to find somebody, I'm going to have a one-night stand for the first time in my life with a very sexy guy. So I kind of forget the image of this really gross, tiny guy.
Yeah.
And that helped me. I'm very aware that it's not for everybody because, I mean, not everybody does that. But for me, it really helped to kind of like take everything back. I really feel like he took my sexuality from me, and he took basically everything that my mom taught me and everything that I built over my sexual years. He just took it away from me. All of a sudden, I was really scared. I really didn't feel sexy anymore. I felt dumb. I didn't feel in control anymore, and I had to take that back. So that helped for me.
I think that's very powerful. And actually also confronting the problem in that way instead of running away from it and trying to hide from it. Yeah. I think it's very powerful.
Yeah. So what was your mom's like kind of response to that? Because it sounded like when you were growing up, that was such a fear for her. And then having to come to terms with facing that again must have been not so easy.
Well, I mean, like, I think my mom was scared when I was a child. So I think, I mean, it's painful that this happened, but it's also, you know, I'm a big girl. So she's like, okay, it's shit that it happened, but you're strong enough to cope with it. But yeah, she also felt really, really bad about it. And she also agreed that it was good to confront the problem instead of running away from it, because I'm really good at running away from problems and just like putting them somewhere, not thinking about it anymore, don't speak about it. And that's actually very Asian.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I do that too.
If I don't see it, it doesn't exist. So basically, I do that with everything, and it will catch up to you one day. Like one day, everything will come out, you get a burnout, something happens, it triggers. And yeah, so my mom was really like, okay, we're going to work on it. This happened. We're going to, if you want to do therapy, we can do therapy. So yeah, also just really like confronting the problem.
Were you in a relationship with this guy at the time?
No, I was dating him. I actually, like, long story short, I met him, I think like 4 years ago in Amsterdam. He's from New York. And so I actually knew who it was, but I never really looked at him as a potential dating candidate because he's just not my type and everything. But I think everybody had some weird thing going on during the first lockdown. Like, I was just bored. I just got out of a relationship. And I thought like, this is going to be the year where I can, because I'm a grandma. I never had a one-night stand. I never go to clubs. I don't have sex with a lot of people. You know, I'm very boring, basically. So I thought like, okay, this is going to be my wild year. I'm going to go on Hinge. I'm going to go on Tinder, whatever. And then for some reason, I got in contact with him again. We always followed each other on Instagram. And it's just it's a very funny, nice guy. And I guess just out of boredom, I started talking to him. And then actually for me, it was just friendly. And then all of a sudden it turned into like more romantic conversations, and I was like, whatever, I'll just go with it. He's in New York, I don't care, it's like untangible and everything. So I kind of rolled into it, and even in the back of my head, I knew it wasn't something, but I really wanted to believe that it was. And then it was difficult because, you know, the United States was closed for a long time. So we decided to meet up in Aruba, and I also just really needed vacation. So I was like, oh, whatever, nice romantic vacation, just go there together. We meet. I already met him, so I know it's not a weirdo. Hope that happened. Yeah, so we met there, and then it was just a fucking nightmare. I remember just the first time I got out of the airplane and I saw him, and I was like, like he was super tiny, and I mean, nothing wrong with tiny guys, but it's just not my thing. And I was like so not attracted to him. Everything about him, like his face and his little hands, everything was like, oh shit. Because I never really paid attention to it, because when I met him sometimes, I never looked at him that way. And I've never been that close to him, but I was like, oh my God, this is going to be horrible. But then he, you know, I think he was very in love with me, and he really but he was just very weird. I remember also on FaceTime, he would just start wanking sometimes. Like I would have a very normal conversation, and he would just take his very tiny dick out and be like,
so he just like he has like very predatory behavior.
Oh, extremely. Yeah. And when I was there, you know, he forced me to do things. I'm pretty sure he drugged me. I'm not pretty sure he drugged me. He gave me like a gummy, like a candy bear. And he told me like, oh, you know, this is like CBD oil, and it's just like relaxing. I thought like, okay, whatever, I'm on vacation. I never did drugs before, but you know, I'm 24, I can do this. So I tried. And later, when I actually took actual drugs for the first time in my life, the end of last year, I recognized the taste. And I was like, he did drug me, because I took it. And I remember we were like on a beach, and all of a sudden, like I couldn't like hold my head anymore. Like everything was spinning. I had to lay down, and I was just knocked out for like 1.5 days. I was just on the bed, like I couldn't move or anything. And he was on top of me, and I was kind of like conscious, but also not. I think I also checked out somewhere. He was just so gross. He made pictures of me. Like I would be showering, and he would just come in the bathroom, take pictures. And I would be like,
oh my gosh.
I'd be like, I don't really like them. He's like, no, just for myself. It's because you're so beautiful and I love you so much. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah.
Gosh.
Afterwards, I really realized that it was horrible. And his ex-girlfriend was also saying that he is like obsessed with leaving marks. And then I also kind of remembered that he wanted to bite me the whole time, or like, you know, give me hickeys. And I told him like, yo, it's not my thing. And also like, I have a photo shoot next week, and you cannot do that to me. I don't want that. And he was so obsessed with just like leaving bruises and marks everywhere. And yeah, he was, thinking back, I'm really like,
I had some issues.
I don't know how I got into that. Like, I really thought, like, oh, like what can go wrong? You know, like I'm going there with somebody I already met like a few times and whatever. But no, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, it sounds very manipulative.
Yeah, I hope that like some people are calling him out, not ensuring that he knows it's not okay behavior for.
I'm not sure, but I do know that. So he's Korean, and you know, Asians, they're very traditional, like rich Korean family. So that's even worse if you're a rich Korean family, because they're even stricter. And you know, I was talking on FaceTime with him for like half a year or something. So his family was also there. They knew me. They know I'm not a crazy girl, you know. They know I have a job. I'm normal, you know. That's very important stuff for them. And he had an ex-girlfriend, also Korean, and they kind of like painted her as a weird, mentally disabled, like just mentally like not okay girl, because she also told him like he raped me and he did stuff to me. But because they had a relationship for 4 years, the family thought like, oh no, she's lying. She's just crazy. But now when I told them too, I think they realized that something was wrong, that I went from talking to him every day and being very nice to his family to never want to speak to him again. I also told his sister, like, you know, he raped me, he drugged me. They were very shocked. So I do think that his family now is looking at him very differently. And he's Korean, you know, his mommy paid everything for him. So I think he is feeling it now.
I hope so. Like, I do feel like a lot of the reason why women feel so much shame around this topic is also because like men oftentimes will portray the woman as the crazy ones, when in reality they're the predator, and then they put women in the position where like, oh, she was crazily obsessed with me. It wasn't just me, it was actually her. So it's good to know that like, hey, his family is also starting to realize that he is the problem, not anyone else.
But that's why I think it's so good and strong that me and his ex-girlfriend approached his family and did our story. And I think that's what made them realize like, okay, he's a fucking crackhead. Like he's not okay in the head. So, but yeah, publicly, I don't know. He's probably going to see this podcast too, because he's stalking me on private accounts and stuff.
Well, we'll make sure to blast it out. So what are the red flags in a guy that a girl should never ignore?
I mean, I think for many girls, it's different because you like different stuff in men. But personally, I think jealousy, possessiveness, because I just really dislike that in guys. But also, I think your gut feeling. Not even, I mean, I can name a list of things, but I think that women are very smart and sensitive when it comes to your gut feeling. And sometimes, I mean, been there, done that, you really want something to work out and you think like, oh, maybe this is the one. But if you feel it in your gut, it's probably true.
Yeah.
So that's something I had to learn the hard way. But I mean, from the beginning, I knew something was up with this guy too. But I just thought I'm being paranoid or I'm just like self-sabotaging. But yeah, at the end, I think your gut feeling is always follow your intuition.
So just now you shared, you know, a big part of your life story, and you've also experienced sexual abuse. Do you think you've overcome that? And how do you think that has impacted your sexual life today?
I definitely think I overcame it 100% sure. Like it took me a while, but no, I don't think it has any impact anymore on my sexual life now, because I took those very radical steps to kind of take everything back. So I think that really helped for me.
No, I think it's also very strong that you're just open to talk about it and kind of break the taboo that it shouldn't be discussed, or that it should be put away, and nobody should actually know this part of you.
Yeah,
I think it's good that you spread this message out, and for all the girls out there, that they should realize that it's never their fault.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And I mean, you saw the Instagram live. Yeah. I also didn't expect to become so emotional. Like I was shaking, and so that was very difficult for me. But now that I overcame that, I can easily speak about it. So now I really know, like, it's in the past, it's behind me. I've been there, done that, chapter closed. Bye, Felicia.
Amazing, great. So after all of this, what is the one piece of advice that you would give all girls and women out there?
Put your own needs first. That's my motto too. I always say, I love you, but I love me more. Yeah. So I think, I feel like women cater to men so much. And also when you look at porn and stuff, I feel like it's always about the guy. Yeah. You know, the guy finishes, then we're done. And, you know, it's I think sex is very, very, very much catered to the pleasure of a guy. So I think that women should just fuck that guy. Like, his dick will stay hard for a while. Like, you do you. You know, I think that's the most important thing.
Great. I see a pattern here. We had a previous guest who also said that. Put yourself first, don't lose yourself. Yeah.
I only saw one podcast, so I have no idea.
Yeah, no, we're also now at podcast number 7, I think. So we didn't have that many yet, but it's a pattern that I see from the last 2 episodes.
It means that women are stronger in a way.
Starting to realize this.
Yeah.
Definitely re-empowering ourselves.
Yeah.
And what would be your favorite self-love quote?
I love you, but I love me more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love it.
You said so many things that I think are just really, I love that you're so open to share it, because not a lot of people would be. Like the O Collective, we talk about being just like you, because there are women that are going through the same thing. And we've actually met a lot of women here in China who have faced the same things and gone to their parents, and their parents told them to not talk about it because it would bring them shame.
Yeah.
And you also being so open and, you know, what articulate about it is great.
Yeah, I think it's so important, especially when you're a public figure, which I don't think I am, but definitely if you have some sort of following on Instagram, you know, it's so superficial and you only see one part of somebody's life, that I feel that is already a very toxic trait of social media. But I think it's so important for people to see that people that they look up to or like, to see that they're going through the same struggles, and being open about it and talking about it really kind of, you know, because I do feel that there's a big taboo still on it, is so important. Even if I could just help one person with this podcast, with that Instagram live, that's my goal.
And the podcast was very efficient. I think we did it in a short amount of time, but we discussed everything that we wanted to, and it was, I think, very strong. If people want to know more about you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm only on Instagram, so I try to have like very good contact with everybody that sends me a DM. It's very difficult, but usually when people send me a DM with questions, I'm always willing to answer.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.